On that website, we have some videos where these type of presentations have been recorded and saved. We also have our emissions bulletin. And our emission bulletin is something you really need to look at and review because it tells you what the standards are, what you need to do, how to answer the letter of intent, and all those type of requirements. So today, we will have two other PAs joining us. However, one is currently in a clinic and has had a bit of a situation developed there. And the other one is at another COVID clinic, and she won't be able to join us for a few minutes as, well, she's running over in her schedule. So what are we going to do today? We're going to talk about what is a PA, what is a physician assistant, why would I want to be one, and how do I get to be one? Those are the essence. Okay. Canada has PAs. We have had PAs since 1984. Actually, the first PA I ever met started working at the University of Alberta in 1983, which is probably before some of you were even born. I met them in 1990. They were working in cardiovascular and cardiac sciences at the University of Alberta. However, the Canadian Armed Forces started using them formally in 1984. Manitoba started the process by changing the regulations in 1999, and we've had PAs here since 2003. In the United States, PAs came about in 1965. Workforce issues resulted in physicians needing more help. They changing technology, changing responsibilities, a movement that said physicians don't need to do every single task, which at that time included starting IVs on patients, doing the EKGs, giving injections, could be delegated to others. And then they had a whole group of people who had retired from the military, had had extensive experience in services in combat arms and on primary care in hostile environments. And they had a foundation of knowledge that needed to be tapped into. So they developed a physician assistant program, and then they progressed. And the rest is history. So I see Catherine is joining us. So I'm going to, as we talk about our three guests, there's me. I'm a graduate at the University of Washington, Medics Northwest, which is in Seattle. Catherine is, wave hello, Catherine. Catherine is one of our PAs who graduated in 2011. You want to just say who you are and what you're doing right now?
Sure. So I'm Catherine. I'm obviously a physician assistant. I graduated from the University of Manitoba program in 2011, and I'm currently working in primary care. And I also assist with the obstetrics and gynecology program with the University of Manitoba PA program.
Well, thank you, Catherine.
Yeah.
And we're waiting for Callie, who is a recent graduate, who is working in a COVID assessment clinic in primary care. When she joins us, she will just step right in. Okay, so what are PAs? PAs are academically prepared and highly skilled general medical practitioners. We work in collaboration with physicians. We can do a little bit of everything. We are trained in a format as a medical generalist, meaning that we have a broad-based medical knowledge and that we function as a form of task substitution for physicians, meaning jobs that would be traditionally performed by a physician can be delegated to somebody who has a proper training and knowledge base and skills. So, for example, we have a PA who's cutting off a cast. She probably even put one on it. We have PAs in family practice, such as Catherine. We also have PAs in surgery. So, okay. So we're going to start off by addressing what is your current role and what has been your journey or career pathway. So I'm going to put you on the spot, Catherine. Why don't you tell us who you were and what you've become and why?
Yeah, so I actually started my career as a nurse, and I did my Bachelor of Science in Nursing at Trent University in Ontario. When I finished that, I applied to PA program and attended University of Manitoba. When I graduated from the University of Manitoba, I actually started my PA career in urology with the youth, so dealing with kidney, bladder, testicular, prostate cancers and problems. And I was working at St. Boniface Hospital, as well as Health Sciences Center and Cancer Care Manitoba, as well as the St. Boniface outpatient clinic. So my role there was both to assist in the OR, manage the inpatients and discharges, as well as attend clinic for outpatients. I also took care of any consults that came from anywhere throughout the hospital. So Emerge was somewhere I would often go. And then I moved from urology after about 3 years into primary care. And I've been in primary care now for about 6 or 7 years, 6 years, I think, 6.5, somewhere in there. Primary care is very cool. While working in primary care, I also do long-term care as part of our practice. We see everybody from babies to people who are 105 years old at our nursing home. I have a practice that looks very similar to any family physician. So I see patients, I have them scheduled with me. I see anything, and from newborn assessments to gynecological exams to hypertension or diabetes management. You name it, we do it. And then when we do go to the nursing home, so we work out of Action Marguerite as well. We manage the locked units, which are for our dementia and Alzheimer's patients. And it just adds variety to my week. We do that on Wednesdays, so it's a nice break in the middle of the week, something different. And so that's really what a brief summary of what my career pathway has looked like.
Yeah. Why did you decide to switch from nursing to PA? I mean, it's the right choice, but why?
Yeah, so nursing was never going to be my final destination. It was always going to be a stepping stone to something else. I just wasn't exactly sure what that was going to be or how long I was going to stay in the nursing profession. But once I got into the nursing profession, it just really solidified that, I did want more. I wanted more autonomy. I wanted to be able to do more for my patients. And the role of a physician assistant allowed for that. I think that's getting into some questions later on, but I did also consider the roles of nurse practitioner and physician as well. And I think that is a little bit later in our talk, so I won't go into that too much at this point. Nursing was never going to be my end goal for sure.
You're right. Always keep the audience wanting more.
Yeah.
And my background is I was a firefighter paramedic. I had a life-changing injury resulting in the fact that I could no longer lift stretchers or hose or do any of that. So I ended up in fire inspection, and I absolutely missed the patient contact, that patient care. I decided that I needed to get back into medicine. I looked around for different careers, and in my 30s, I decided to go back to university. I finished a degree in physiology, and then was applying for different programs. I decided to go with the PA route because I had 2 young children and a wife who would only support me for so much. And then I got accepted in the University of Washington. I trained in primary care. I worked around Seattle for a little while in emergency departments, building on my background, but also then got a great job up in Alaska. I worked in rural Alaska, a town of 450 people in the winter and 3,000 in the summer. Transferred to an emergency department after a year when my wife said she needed to live in a better community. And I loved that. And we lived there for 6 years. Then Manitoba started opening up its opportunities. I came back, started working in neurosurgery because they only had PAs in surgery at that time, and loved it. And I was given the opportunity of becoming the program director. So I became an educator. I am using my knowledge and helping to build a foundation here in Canada. So that was my quick pathway. So why not MD? Well, for family reasons. So Catherine, what would you say is your typical day like as a PA in our current situation?
In our current situation. So yeah, so COVID has changed things quite a bit. My day, again, looks similar to a family physician. I have patients scheduled for me. I start usually at 9 a.m. ish, sometimes 8:30, just depending on when the patient's schedules need to be. I try and accommodate my patients basically. So yeah, start usually around 8:39. Most of our appointments have moved to over the phone. So we do about, I would say about 60 to 70% of our visits over the phone right now. The rest is in person. We generally see people in person on Fridays. And the docs that I work with, because I work in a group setting in terms of practice. So we have 5 different family docs. So we try and spread out who's seeing patients on each day just to minimize the amount of traffic in the clinic on any given day. That being said, though, if we have something urgent that comes up, then I will definitely squeeze patients in throughout the week as well. So it's sort of a soft rule, Fridays being in-person days and the rest being over the phone, just because it doesn't always work out that way.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I see everything from newborn assessments to geriatrics to cardiology management, hypertension, diabetes are like bread and butter, anxiety, depression, mental health, a lot of anxiety lately, and a lot of depression just related to different stressors related to COVID for people, and sometimes job loss or job stress. Definitely huge spectrum there. Yeah, so and then again on Wednesdays, my day, I start out at the nursing home. So I go into the nursing home with my primary supervising physician. We divide and conquer. So we have 3 wings. I'll take one wing, he'll take another wing. We'll go through any issues that the residents have had over the past week since we were last there. We still are going into the nursing home almost every week. Some weeks, if our charge nurse says, you know, it's stuff that can be managed over the phone, we will do it from the clinic, but most weeks we are needed there. So we'll just go through the list of what they have for us. And that can be anything from, you know, in dementia, it's really hard for the patients because they can't tell us what's going on. So oftentimes we may notice behavior changes, or they're walking funny, or they had a fall, or their behavior has just started to escalate. So those are the type of things that we mostly see at the nursing home, but certainly there is, again, a wide range of issues that we deal with, but our ward is a bit different that way. Yeah. And after the nursing home, I do come back to the clinic on Wednesday afternoons and resume sort of a normal day.
Right. Well, I'll share what I did in neurosurgery.
Mhm.
Our days would start around 6 o'clock in the morning. Surgery likes being in early, where we would meet in the intensive care unit and start doing our rounds. So I work with the residents, but I worked for the attendings, and generally we would have our resident team of 6 and myself, and we would start going around all the patients that we had admitted to the intensive care unit, where we would find out what happened overnight. We would do a exam, see how they're doing, see how they're recovering from either a traumatic brain injury, from an aneurysm, and write up a treatment plan and decide whether or not we wanted to do more CTs or scans. But then we'd go on to our ward, where we took care of 29 patients. 7 to 11 were in our step down unit. That means they were in the intensive care unit or had just come out of surgery. We would uh, review each patient. We would join up with the team of nurses and possibly a pharmacist. We would discuss the medications, the course of actions, deciding if they were improving or what we could do for them. And then we would go down through and meet in every single patient. And that would take to about 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning, depending on how complicated our day was. Some of the residents would run off and go into the surgery. And as a PAs, we would stay on the ward and we would troubleshoot, fix any of the orders, address any of the family concerns, spend some time with particular patients to do procedures. For example, if we had to do a lumbar puncture, if we had to adjust the drain from a wound, if they deteriorated, we would call the attending. But most of the time, we kind of wrote the orders. If they had needed their electrolytes adjusted, if they needed blood pressure medications fixed, if we had to write a consult, if they were having another problem that our service never dealt with, for example, um, a dislocated shoulder or from a trauma case or a broken leg, we would consult orthopedics who would come in. Even though we're trained on how to manage it, we would have to work within what our attendings did. And so that was the day shift. At nights, we would sometimes, the PA would be the only one in the hospital. So if something came into the emergency department, we would respond down to that. We would be as part of the surgical team, doing the assessment, making sure the CAT scans were done, the MRIs, whatever needed to be done. If they needed to go to the operating room, we would pick up the phone and call the attending and say, we have a patient who's got a traumatic brain injury, who is suffering an epidural bleed. These are the images. I've pushed them to your server. And then we would make the decision. The surgeon would say, yeah, okay, get them going. I will meet you in the room. So we would prep the patient, get them upstairs, and I would end up being the first assist, which is really cool part of being in surgery. The first time I had a help take off a piece of the skull to remove a clot and seeing the brain expand is something that I will never forget. And we made a difference and the patient was discharged from the hospital. That was the type of rewards we got. If there was somebody who was having constipation, we'd have to fix that too. So there was the yin and the yang of healthcare, dealing with the system. So my typical day went from, how we say, feces consistent to running like crazy and trying to control my blood pressure because everything was really, really exciting. But being a trauma junkie, uh, that was good. So move on to our next question, because there's no such thing as a typical day in our typical world. All right. What do you like the most or the least about your role, past and present, Catherine?
Yeah, so I would say my
favorite thing about being a PA is working with the teams that we work with. So in my current practice, again, I work with a few family docs. We also have a primary care nurse. We also have a team called My Health Team that we can consult. So on that team, we have occupational therapy, we have a pharmacist, we have a dietitian. So I really like working within an interdisciplinary team because I feel like it provides the patient with the best possible care and continuity of care. We also have a counselor, which is amazing, and it's free for our patients, which can be a huge barrier to care, is just cost for some of our patients, especially if they don't have access to something like EAP through work, or if they're not currently working because of COVID. So I would say the team aspect is one of my favorite parts. I would say maybe my least favorite part is some days can just be emotionally, they can take a toll on you. You never know what's walking in your door, what you're going to see, or what you're dealing with. But that being said, it's also one of my favorite parts because I have an ability to make a huge impact on someone's life for the positive, and I think that is an amazing thing. So, just like any stress there, or with any job, there's going to be stress, and it's just how you manage and you deal with it. So, and for me, that's exercise is a huge component of that.
Yeah. Speaking of stress, hey, how are you?
Hi.
Hi.
How's it going?
Good, good. Could you just briefly introduce yourself and tell us how your day is going?
I am Callie. I am a PA grad from the class of 2020. I work at COVID assessment centers outpatient, and my location is the Thunderbird House. So we had nothing going on all morning, and someone is not overdosing, but is on the borderline of needing some Narcan on my floor right now. And some people need some prescriptions just all right at 11:30. So the timing was impeccable.
Well, it is Friday. I mean, it will get worse around 4 o'clock, 4:30, correct?
Always.
It's
Yeah.
witching hour right before we close.
Yes, yeah. So we were just talking about a little bit about our previous life and our role and what happened and how we got to where we are. And so how did you decide to become a PA?
I out of undergrad, where I fell in love with microbiology. I did my master's in med micro, and I thought I was going to do a PhD and be a researcher, but doing a graduate degree in research made me realize I didn't want to do a graduate degree in research. So I was never someone in undergrad that had even considered a career in the medical field. And it wasn't until doing a master's in research that I knew that I wanted to go into something clinical. And someone that I had done my master's with was in the PA program and was like, you got to come check this out.
You did, and you got in.
Yeah. Also, I have 3 kids. So if anybody out there is a parent, you can do it. You got this.
Yeah, that's what I started with. So what do you like the least about your role right now?
I'm not sure there's things I don't like about my role. I think that depending on where you work is going to be different everywhere. Some places don't know what a PA is, and you might really be fighting for yourself and the profession of the PA. Some places are very experienced with PAs and might have like formal onboarding and stuff like that. In my situation, these roles for PAs in outpatient COVID assessment, there was 5 of us that were hired, brand new. And I think that they've embraced us in helping move this along. Like, they don't really know what it's going to look like, and things are always changing. Policies are changing, PPE guidelines are changing, everything's changing. And I feel like we are part of those decisions. And so I feel like that's really neat about where I work, is that I've kind of been grouped into the leadership team to help make decisions and see what works and see what doesn't work. And I guess with COVID, because it's all hands on deck and the resources are a bit more abundant, I feel like change is happening faster than in other areas.
Yeah. Healthcare is changing pretty fast, consistent. I would say that the worst part of my job is consistently trying to explain what a physician assistant is to people who are paying our salaries and still don't know what we do. I think the best part of my job as an educator is getting to know the students as they enter and then talking to them a few years after they've graduated and seeing how much they have grown and changed and embraced, should I say the Kool-Aid, the concept of being a PA. And the very fact is that I think every day I'm able to make a little bit of a difference. All right. By the way, just checking, can everyone see my slides on the screen? Okay, good. All right. So, did you consider other healthcare roles when you were preparing for your journey? We'll start with Catherine.
Yeah, so yeah, I touched on it a little bit and then left it for this. I knew this point was coming up. So yes, I definitely obviously considered nursing because that's what I initially went through to be. But again, didn't ever think that was going to be my end spot, my end goal. But didn't know how long I would stay there for. And actually, when I was going through PA school, I still worked as a nurse. And even when I was a PA, I kept my nursing license and continued to work as a nurse for the first 3 years of my career because I had a job at Clinic with a K working in their STI and PAP test clinics that I just adored and never wanted to leave. And the hours worked really well with my job in urology because my hours at the hospital were 7 to 3. And then I was able to hop over to clinic for 4 to 8. And of course, that was before I had babies or got married. So I had lots of ability to work as much as I wanted to. And again, just really enjoyed my job. But that being said, I wanted to be able to provide more to my patients. So I knew and have more autonomy and the ability to make decisions and more knowledge. I wanted to know more. So then it came down to nurse practitioner, physician, or physician assistant. I actually didn't know about the PA role until I was in my 3rd year of nursing. And one of my psychology professors was from the States. And we were going through the class saying, you know, what we wanted to be. And I had said, you know, I think a nurse practitioner. And she's like, oh, well, you have to look into physician assistant. They're going to be starting a couple new programs in Canada and it's huge in the States. And, you know, I really think it would be a good fit for you. So I started to look into it and I was like, man, yeah, I've always really enjoyed the team approach. I am a synchronized swimmer. So team is literally my life. I've lived and breathed being in a team and being part of a team and leader of a team since I was little, like started swimming when I was 7. So it's always been a part of my life. It allowed me to learn using the medical model because as much as I loved nursing, I was always wanting to learn using that approach. And as much as nursing theory was great for my grades, I just wanted something a bit different. So I liked that aspect as well. And again, it allowed me more autonomy. I wasn't, the reason why I didn't choose PhD is I wanted to be able to have a good work-life balance, which you can achieve as a physician. It's just can be a bit more difficult. I didn't want to do that length of schooling either. And again, I just felt like that team approach really fit well for me, and being a PA seemed like the clear fit. So that's when I decided to apply to the program.
Yeah, and glad you're here.
Thanks.
You know,
Me
or
too.
work, something. Yes.
Worked out well. I love my job. So
just switching the question up a little bit. Now that you are PAs, would you have considered going anywhere else into another profession? Because I know I wouldn't. I mean, I love being a PA. I mean,
No.
but
No, I love this role. Again, I can do everything I wanted to do. I have that good work-life balance. I'm able to contribute to a new profession, which is really cool, because as frustrating as it is to have people ask, oh, what is a PA, which happens way less now than when I first started practice. But it's also really cool to be the first PA somebody has met and be able to set the standard and be a representative of this new and upcoming profession in Canada. And I always make sure to explain what a PA is, because I want them to go tell their family about me, and I want them to tell their friends, and and that positive word to spread, that like PAs are awesome, we need them. And in family medicine, that is what happens. Sometimes I'll speak to a patient that I've never met before, but oh, my husband's seen you a couple times, or my daughter has seen you, or so and so has seen you, and they have really good things to say, and that always feels really good. So yeah.
great. Kelly, in your world, you're working with different cultures and all that. How do they view you as a physician assistant, not the physician? Are you having any issues with that?
No, someone just asked me this question, and I said even like on rotations in school, it probably only came up, I think, 2 times, once in family, once in emerge, where someone was like, I'll only see the doctor. I haven't really had an issue. And certainly here, there's not an issue. So we don't have our medical director on site at the COVID assessment clinics. So they're a phone call away if we need them, but they're almost never here, only to meet contracted supervision requirements.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I haven't had an issue with anyone. I feel like the population that we serve, when people come here and need help, they need help, and they don't really care who's giving that to them.
Yeah, it is interesting. When I first came here, I was the 5th, and I basically had to explain how to use the initials, and there was no apostrophe in the word and that. And then I started seeing more and more snowbirds who were coming back into the clinic, who had been dealing with a PA when they were down south in Arizona, Montana, that type of place. And so gradually more and more have become accepted. However, I can share the fact that for the rest of your career, you will still have to explain what you do. Because even my friends in the States who have been PAs now for 40 years still have to explain that, no, I'm not the doctor, I'm the PA. I can take care of you. I can listen to you. I have time to do that. So what are some of the other common or specialties or directions that you've seen other colleagues take, and what would be of interest to you? You're both kind of in primary care. So
I've had colleagues go into lots of different areas. So from my class, they've gone into nephrology, obstetrics and gynecology, emergency, ortho, neurosurgery, cardiology, I believe. There's PAs everywhere, geriatrics. And then, like I said before, I started my career in urology, now in primary care. I can't see myself moving anytime soon from primary care. The reason I chose to switch from urology into something different was because I felt like I wasn't being challenged as much anymore. I felt like I had grown quite a bit and just wanted something new. And I feel like primary care offers that to me every day, where I always, I've been a PA now for 9 years, and I still have days where I'm like, something walks in the door and I'm like, I've never seen that before. So I love that aspect about primary care. And for that reason, because it continues to challenge me, and I'm constantly learning, as you always do in medicine, but this role is something different. I just don't see me moving anytime soon. I can see me staying here for possibly the rest of my career, but I guess that's a long time to to commit to that right now. But yeah,
careers are long times.
Yeah.
I know I've worked in As a PA, I've worked in addiction medicine, emergency medicine, correctional medicine, rural primary care, neurosurgery. Now I'm in education. And that transition was actually fairly easy. It takes about a couple months before you kind of figure out where the washrooms are and who really is in charge of the unit. And you have to introduce yourself to the nurse manager who actually makes all the decisions anyway. But it's exciting because your core foundation is transferable. Where are your classmates working, Ms. Braun?
So there are 4 of us in outpatient COVID assessment. 1 is leaving to go to plastic surgery. There's 4 that were hired to cardiology. We got 1 in Emerge in Selkirk, 1 internal medicine in Portage la Prairie, 1 surgery in Brandon, 1 internal medicine that went to Ontario, 1 in psych, 1 in addictions. That might be everybody.
I mean, for a class of 15, they do end up in pretty diverse specialties.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a good spread. And so in terms of where I'd want to be, anybody that knows me knows that I want to work in infectious diseases. I'll keep fighting for it.
Well, you currently are.
Yeah.
Have you heard any of your colleagues say that it's a disadvantage moving from spot to spot?
For me, like, we're all still so new that I don't, like, people haven't really started to move around. Like I said, 1 is going to move to plastics, but for the most part, we graduated early in July, and the person that started working first probably started right at the end of July, beginning of August, up until November. So some of us have only been working now for 3 months. So too early to say.
Yeah. For me, I would say no. If anything, it's a huge advantage. Number 1, for the reason I said earlier, when you need a new challenge, you're able to move. But also, I know one of my classmates, Esma, she had worked in Emerge since forever, since she graduated, and recently transitioned to oncology just because the Emerge lifestyle no longer worked for her with having kids at home, and she wanted something a little bit more stable because her husband also does shift work. So she was able to move into oncology and have that more of a Monday to Friday type look. So worked really well for her that way too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So focusing back on our audience that is really kind of interested in, assuming some of them are interested in applying for the program, what experiences have you had or would you recommend students engage in to help them decide on whether your role is a good fit for them? As in, what should they do to figure out if being a PA is right?
Yeah. So I always recommend speak to a PA or 2 or 3. There's some great blogs, Canadian PA blogs online. So if you just Google that, I recommend looking into CAPA website, which is the Canadian Association of Physician Assistants, just to learn more. The University of Manitoba and the WHA has a great shadowing program they usually offer, but it's on hold right now because of COVID. So I always recommend that program and applying to it. They actually will provide you with a certificate afterwards as well that you can add to your CV when you apply to the program. So those are some things that I usually suggest looking into that are PA specific. And then I usually recommend having some sort of teamwork history. So whether that's working in a team on a sports team or working in a team at McDonald's or whatever. But because teamwork is important in what we do, it's important that you enjoy working as part of a team. So that doesn't necessarily have to be PA specific. And if you have exposure to the healthcare system, that's always great too, just so you know what you're getting into, but not necessary for sure.
Yeah. Kelly.
Yeah, so if anyone out there has not heard of Parsec, they are holding, that's open to everyone, right, Ian? It's just a Facebook page.
Right, yeah. Matter of fact, on our website, we now have all the presentations on recording.
Awesome. So parsec.live is hosting virtual shadowing about Canadian PA. So I missed the occupational medicine one, but I did tune into the pediatrics. And basically across provinces, because we work a little bit differently and people hold roles in different areas of medicine, maybe in Manitoba versus Ontario. They're holding virtual shadowing events. So you can kind of hear a day in the life, you can kind of walk through a case. I think just having any experience, honestly, like if you look across our class and where people came from and what their backgrounds were, we had some people that had clinical experience. I don't have clinical experience. I held jobs throughout school. Like some people are very worried about volunteer hours or looking good on a resume. And I think that just being, that MPAS looks at you in like a holistic approach. So like I work jobs, I didn't volunteer. I don't have clinical experience, and people that are in the program, we all basically perform the same. Some of us came from, like I have a master's in research, some had a bachelor in science, some had bachelor of arts in psych, some were working as an RT, OT, ICU nurse. Like we all bring our own strengths to the program and we all end basically at the same place. So I don't think that there's a particular thing that would make you a better fit to be a PA, except just wanting to be a PA. So the things that Kat had said, talking to people, and yeah, unfortunately, real shadowing is not very feasible at this time. So that's the only downside.
I'm just putting some information about Parsec Live. It's for the membership, which is required to view the videos. We sell the memberships at a donation cost. There's a recommendation, but a token amount would get you in. I think you could even, well, $5 should work. But anyway, we're doing oncology next, and we've done emergency and pediatrics and occupational health. So
they've been really good.
They're fun to do. So let's see what next we have on our agenda. And then, you want to talk about your Instagram social media outlet, and are there any experiences you would recommend that students have to increase chances for them being successful, not so much getting into the program, but being successful as PAs? Who's first?
Callie, I'll let you take that one first if you want.
To be successful. So I guess I kind of partially answered this in my last answer that, we all come in from a different place in life and in life experiences and educational experiences. But I think that the drive to want to be a PA kind of puts you through the program. It's heavy on content. It's so funny because it felt like so much when you were there, but on the other side, you're like, oh, it's fine.
Yeah.
It wasn't enough.
So, I mean, chances of being successful in school, you need to be organized and dedicated to the amount of study time. I remember, interestingly, the person that Kat has inspired to become a PA was Aileen, and Aileen was the one who inspired me to become a PA. So that's like a nice little circle there. I remember asking her after I got accepted into the program, I was like, how much do you study? Like, she said, after dinner until 11 p.m. every night. So, and that's not far from the truth, to be honest. So just having expectations of what the program looks like. And I mean, you get syllabi from all of your semesters as you're going through, and really you have a support team of your other classmates. And if anybody that's watching this video has reached out to a PA on social media or a friend of a friend, I would bet that you found that they were really helpful. They provided lots of information to you. And I found that when I was a PA, I got that help. And so I get random messages on Instagram from people, and I try and provide them, Manitoba specific information that could be helpful to them. So I think that it's a really welcoming community, both when you're trying to get into the program, once you're in the program, and then, as Kat had mentioned, after, like, we're still such a small program, and in Manitoba, there's more than 100 PAs, but you know who a lot of them are, either personally or by name, and you can watch people move from role to role to role, and you can watch them take on new leadership projects or research projects, and it's just really neat to be part of what is still a really small group, and you can make I think you can make a lot of movement.
What sort of soft skills would you recommend? Time management.
I don't know. I think that I'm a very talkative person, and I'm super personable. And so I feel like if my medicine knowledge was lacking on my rotations, that my chattiness, the patients like me, and so did the attendings.
Yeah.
But I guess you can't really teach that, can you?
No.
Developing the confidence.
Yeah. I definitely think, like Ian mentioned, time management is huge because, like Kelly said, having realistic expectations of what the program's going to look like. This will not be a walk in the park. You are essentially learning med school in 2 years, and it's intensive, but it will prepare you to be a successful PA. But you need to be dedicated, have good time management skills, and good communication skills. And like Kelly had said, everybody has a different strength and different weakness. And most people in the PA profession, if not all, want to help one another. So I know my class, and I'm pretty sure it's been all the classes, generally tend to work together in one aspect or another to study together, because you'll have, for example, in my class, biochem, not my thing, but my best friend Esma is huge into biochem. Patient assessment, my thing, but she had never worked in a clinical practice. So when we were studying for those things, we would work together, and she helped me with biochem. I helped her with patient assessment. And it really sets the class up for success, because that's the really cool thing about our profession is we come from all different walks of life, all different backgrounds, all different knowledge bases. And so we're able to help one another out throughout the program, because it is intensive and you need support from one another, just like Kelly said. So
it really becomes a community. I mean, you're just focused here in Manitoba, but there is a national and even an international community. Did you know that our first year students are now in a pen pal relationship with the Netherlands,
cool.
with one of the PA programs, and they're trading information back and forth about the
New
culture,
Zealand,
but also the
New
PA world.
Zealand just announced that Manitoba PAs that have practiced for 3 years can come practice in New Zealand. So there you
Cool.
go.
Yeah, we
Location
actually,
change, guys.
one of our graduates was involved in the opening of the PA programs in Ireland, in the Republic of Ireland.
That's
So
awesome.
it's really quite fascinating what we're able to do now. So, so what is the current labor market like? Where can you work? Is it hard to find a job?
I get a lot of questions from pre-PAs that tried to Google for jobs for PAs and found nothing. They are kind of hidden. They're freely accessible to see on the internet, but you will not find them with a Google search. And jobs are posted for 7 days at a time and then taken down. So at any one time, it may look like there's nothing. But right now, everyone from our class is employed. And I got a notification this morning that there's like 3 surgery jobs in Brandon right now, or 2 surgery and nephro or something like that. So I mean, there's constantly things that are coming up. So I would say that the market there's not like an at least in Manitoba, there's not an abundance of like open jobs, but that everybody that finishes the program, I would expect going forward to continue to find jobs. And in terms of where you work, most people work for an RHA, but not everyone.
RHA being Regional Health Authority.
So WRHA being Winnipeg Regional Health Authority, and then there are other health authorities outside of Winnipeg. And in terms of compensation, if you take one of those jobs in an RHA, you belong to the union, in which we have set vacation time and set reimbursements for continuing professional development hours, or like time off to do continuing professional development, as well as money towards those activities. And you're paid in a stepwise fashion. So like when you're looking for your first job, if you're like, I love family medicine, but I need to get paid more, so I'm going to go work in the hospital, that's not the case. As long as it falls in the union, everybody will start at that first pay scale step, and you'll make the same amount of money wherever you are. And that's also available online.
Yeah, one of the major advantages of that is that we don't have that gender discrepancy that is common in a lot of different professions.
Just pay the women more.
Yeah, it's really fascinating that PA educators, the female educator in the United States makes about 20% less than a male educator, and they have the same qualifications, and it's unacceptable. So anyway, I am glad that we were able to get that straightened in this province. And it doesn't matter if you are a brain surgery PA or primary care PA, your talents are the same and as respected. So anyway, that's my rant for the moment. Catherine, anything to add?
No, I was just going to say, in terms of pay, you do have the opportunity to make more if you work shift work or are allowed overtime. So for example, my job currently does not allow for overtime. So even if I wanted to work more hours, I'm not able to currently. I don't want to work any more hours because I do lots outside of this place, but that would be one option. If you were looking to make more than what the pay scale allows, then you do have the option to work somewhere that perhaps allows for overtime, shift work. You get shift premium, and then overtime hours, obviously you'll get paid. I don't know if it's time and a half, or I don't know what those rules are because they don't apply to me right now, but
there are PAs also working, sorry.
No, go ahead.
There are PAs working in the private sector for in industrial medicine. And there are now PAs who are forming companies and working under contract for different health organizations where they're flying in for 2 weeks and they're being treated as a contractor. The disadvantage is they don't have the pension and the benefits, but the contract pay is higher. So it's a trade-off. And this is just beginning across Canada, and I think it's really, really exciting. So, and for the record, every one of our graduates has had employment now, even the ones recently, and the ones who are laid off are also employed. So unless they've left the workforce, I can't find a PA from our program that's unemployed. However, that's not a guarantee, and it could all change tomorrow. So, because, it's just a reality in the world we live.
And if I could just intervene just for one quick second, there are just so Ian, Catherine, and Callie, we do have some questions in chat. So at some point in the next, maybe when you're wrapping up here, maybe we can attend to some of those questions too from some of the students.
Well,
yeah.
Funny you should mention that, because I think we were going to start progressing right into the questions. There's a few slides, but we can start asking questions, and I'll just kind of circulate the slides through from this point on.
Okay. I am going to start here. We had a question earlier on. Let's see here. So for Catherine, we had a question, and you may have already touched on this a little bit, but if you wanted to elaborate, I thought a student had a question for you. how did you become interested initially in the PA profession? Like, what was it that really sparked an interest in this particular profession for you?
So I thought, again, the team aspect was a big one for me, as well as the ability to practice medicine and learn via the medical model. But also just being in a new and upcoming profession is not something that most people can say that they've been a part of. It doesn't happen very often. And I thought that was sort of neat as well. So.
Absolutely, for sure. Thank you for that. It says here, another student had a question in terms of, for you, Catherine. The question was, does Catherine or do PAs in Manitoba get paid through the physician? Is it a fee for service or through something like Winnipeg Regional Health Authority?
Okay, so my role is a bit complex. I'm hired through WRHA. I work in fee-for-service practice, but I get paid through Manitoba Health. So I'm part of what they call the Interdisciplinary Team Initiative Development Plan, something like that. So it is a little bit different. There are people who work in fee-for-service, and there is a way to work through that. It is a little bit tricky just with the way things are currently in Manitoba, but it can be done. But I would say that most PAs in the city are hired through RHA and paid through Manitoba Health. So
awesome, thank you.
Further to that, like PAs don't have billing numbers. Like we don't bill based on each piece of work that we do, like a fee-for-service doctor would. And like nurse practitioners bill or shadow bill or whatever, we don't. At least currently, that's not something that's happening with PAs.
Okay. Callie, someone had a question for you actually. Earlier on, when you were chatting with the group, you had mentioned that there may have been a situation where a client or a patient has said, you know, can I speak with a doctor? And this person wanted to know how you did respond or how you would respond in a situation like that.
Yeah, so sometimes it's about the fact that you're a woman and they are a early 20s gentleman coming with a genital problem, to be totally honest.
Yeah.
And so usually if someone says that they don't want to see you as the student, or that they only want to see the doctor, oftentimes people will say like, okay, like I'm available now and the doctor will be available when they're available. So you'll just have to wait. One of the PAs that was working in plastic surgery told us that when she gets that she's like a seasoned PA who's worked with the same doctor for a long time. And you'll see, you know, as you become a PA and you work in different areas that have PAs, you'll see that the PAs and the doctors make decisions the same way. They've worked together enough that they know how their supervising physician thinks, and they gain autonomy because there's trust that the situations will be handled in a similar fashion. So this PA said that when people go, I don't want to deal with you, I want to deal with the doctor, she would just say, sure, are there any questions you want me to pass on to him? The patient would say, I was wondering about XYZ, and she would often answer the question, and then either the patient would say, you know what, that was thorough enough, I'm fine, or they would wait, and when they finally talked to the doctor would just tell them the exact same thing.
Yeah.
And so I would not take it personally if someone says that they don't want to see you and they want to see someone else. I would say, sure, fill them with kindness, and they can wait to see the doctor if that's what they want to do.
Yeah.
Thanks. We had another question here. Is the CGPA looked at? I know that all graduate programs look at your last 60 hours GPA for eligibility to the program, but does the MPAS program look at GPA in the admission process? And further to that, this person also inquired about what kind of interview is held. Is it panel or MMI? And any tips that you could share on the interview process?
Well, the answer is yes, we do.
Yeah.
We look at cumulative grade point average. We look at the last 60 grade point average. We look at performance in the core required courses. We run a multiple mini interview. We run a panel interview. We read and review the letter of intent. We will interview your cat and other members of your family to get the background information. We require letters of reference. We try to be very thorough. We have on average about 15 applications for every available position. Academics alone does not make a PA. Personality alone doesn't make a PA. So we look at a lot of different things. We consider ties to Manitoba. We consider the life experience. We want people who can sit in a classroom with 15 other strangers and not want to kill them by the end of the first term. I mean, it is stressful, and we really want people to have that personality and the ability to walk into a room with a total stranger and strike up a conversation about their personal sex history. That confidence level is paramount. That will teach you the skills and the questions to ask. But if you walk into an interview and start breaking out in sweat and shaking and you're anxious when somebody asks you questions, the PA profession will probably be not in their best interest. So I hope that answered the question. We look at everything.
Ian, how are interviews happening in COVID land this year?
Well, our plan this year is that currently I have a team that's reviewing each one of the letters of intent, and then combining with the scores and the matrix. We will then set up a panel where 4 people will meet with the individual virtually, go through a series of questions, and then we're working on a MMI, but what we will do is we will have 2 interviewers going through 3 questions that are typical of our MMI. There'll be, if you were given $10,000 to give to a charity, who would you give it to and why? That type of question. If you had to be stranded on a desert island, what book would you like to bring and why? And then when somebody says, well, that's a terrible choice, can you defend it? That's what we're trying to do. Yeah. So it's not your traditional MMI where there's a bell and you run from room to room. We have to adapt. And what is the motto of the program?
Change, adapt, achieve.
Yeah, change, adapt, achieve. Yeah, that's what we do. I hope that answered the question.
We had a question here from a student wondering what the job opportunities are like in rural communities for PAs.
Well, 25% of our graduates have taken jobs in communities under 50,000. We actually have a lot of PAs who have gone to small town hospitals and are working in either the emergency department or in primary care settings. Well, not as many in primary care as we would like, but we can see that coming down the road. But we have PAs in Selkirk surgery and in Dolphin. We have a hospitalist and as well as a surgery PA. Brandon, I think there's 7 now. Portage Prairie, I think, is now up to 3. Thompson has 2. La Paz has 1. I mean, they're scattered throughout. And once the next phase of the health restructuring plan comes around, there will likely be a lot more jobs for rural PAs. So
that's great. We had a couple students ask about how many spots per year are there for students?
We
in the
have 15
program?
slots in our program.
Okay. Good. Are Canadian PAs able to practice in the US?
Why would you want to? The answer is no. The United States only does not allow any non-American PA graduate to write their certification exam. It's about the only nation in the world that does that, because we have PAs can write the British exam and the Dutch and other areas as well. So
There's a question here for Catherine, and specifically asking about whether, Catherine, you would recommend taking a nursing path to get like as an undergraduate degree,
Yeah.
and wondering, this person is wondering about the advantages or disadvantages to that. This person is a first-year undergrad.
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily recommend it per se. It's not a bad route to go. It definitely sets you up in terms of having experience in healthcare. But as you can see with Callie, she had a science-based background and was extremely successful. As she said, my friend Aileen, who also went through the program, also had a science-based background and was extremely successful. So again, that's sort of the nice part about the PA program, is that we come from diverse backgrounds. So I would suggest doing an undergrad in something that will interest you, meets the core requirements, because ultimately if you take nursing and that's not something that is interesting to you, the grades may be reflective of that and could hinder things. But that being said, nursing did seem to set me up well. I certainly didn't have as strong of a science background as some of my colleagues who did go through the sciences. So I can say that that was definitely more of a struggle for me. Again, biochem not being my strength. And I did do biochem in nursing and was successful, but it's different. And so, again, nursing would set you up for success if that's something that you're interested in. Then that would be, a fair way to go. And if nursing is not interesting to you and you would never do a career in nursing, I wouldn't suggest just doing it to get into the PA program. So I don't know, Ian might want to expand on that too.
Yeah, I think it's really important to have a plan B. We only have 15 positions. I mean, it's competitive, and we accept applicants from across the nation. We actually had, last year, we had applicants from every single province in Canada.
We had a student here inquiring about, should you apply to the program and let's say you don't get in, what would you suggest the next steps be in improving your chances of being selected in subsequent years? And is there a limited time that you can, a limited amount of times that you can actually apply to the program?
Well, that's a tricky question. If you apply the first time and you don't get in and you don't do anything else, you'll never get in. If you're, there's a slide up right now that says on the average, we have students between 22 and 47. The average age is 29. That means that they've done something else in their life. GPA is better than 3.7. The last 3 years, I think we've averaged, it was like 3.9, 4.1 average GPA. And that's cumulative. So not just in the last 60 credit hours. So that's a pattern of high achievement in academics. But, most of them also have team sports experience or research teams experience. I mean, being able to work well with others is paramount to the PA profession. A third of the ones who've come into our program already have a graduate degree, a master's, and they've applied in. Now, that's a very expensive route. I'm not sure I would recommend that for everyone because there seems to be people will jump in a profession because they truly love the concept of it without looking into the employment opportunities. For example, my son is a PhD in political theory. He's brilliant. He's fantastic, and he's living at home. But, all right, he will get there. All right, because I'm a very supportive parent. But you know, that's kind of the reality of what's going on there. Most of the time, people get turned away from our program because their letter of intent, why they want a PA, they haven't actually talked to a PA. They haven't spent any time answering and reflecting on why they want to be a PA. Because it's, if you think it's fame, fortune, and glory and being able to buy a Bentley, you might be able to get yourself a nice Subaru, but you know, it's different. You don't do it for the money. So I hope that answered the question. I don't know what the magic formula is, and I've been doing this for a long time. Catherine, any suggestions?
Have much more to suggest there.
Callie, someone was just commenting here about some of the work that you're doing at Thunderbird House, and this person is commenting on how you know, working at Thunderbird House and how you've undeniably been doing an amazing job increasing access to resources for those you serve. And the question here is that with the population that you're providing care to, do you think that COVID actually opened up a deeper look into the care that is the extra care that is needed and what could come?
Yeah, it's really tricky. I wish I could take you for like a walking tour, but there's patients here, so that's probably not a good idea. But we have done so much and we just keep adding more on. So it's really cold out right now. And I'm sure you've seen on the news, there's like the teepees outside and stuff like that through initiatives. So that's not part of Thunderbird House, but they're set up outside. And so there's lots of clothing donations, and they have oatmeal in the morning and chili for dinner and hot chocolate and coffee and stuff like that for people to warm up, and fires inside the teepees with sage and cedar and all sorts of traditional medicines that people may need. Inside, we offer people sandwiches and juice and stuff while they wait. Of course, we offer COVID tests, and for our shelter and homeless population, we refer them to alternative isolation accommodations. And so because we're in red restriction, we can't, just like everyone in your house would need to isolate if one person got a swab, if someone staying at a shelter gets a swab, they can't go back to the shelter. So we're offering essentially a hotel room with a bathroom and meals delivered to the door for these people while they're waiting for their COVID swab. And it's really great, all of the things that are able to be offered and the money that's available to do that. I worry about when things slow down and those services don't exist anymore. So I do think it's put a spotlight on the needs of that population in Winnipeg, but I am curious to see what types of things happen as COVID restrictions ease. And at some point, COVID goes down to this baseline where it's less of a problem than it is now. What's going to happen, and which of those resources are going to disappear for these people?
And I know, Ian, that you had mentioned, thanks so much, Kelly, by the way, for responding to that question. There's a couple more questions in here, but I don't know, we've got about like 7 minutes here. And Ian, I know you had a couple more slides here, and I wondered if you wanted to attend to some of that.
I've been flipping through them so that we can stay with the questions.
Yeah, okay, sounds good. It says here, for the Casper test, is there a certain score or cutoff score that needs to be achieved in order to be selected for an interview?
We use the Casper test. We look at the Z scores to put people into categories. So we give points for above standard deviation We don't use it to rule anybody out. We use it as part of the overall matrix. So, for example, if you're 2 standard deviations below, there can be a lot of reasons. You might get 1 point versus somebody who's 2.5 above who might get 4 points.
Okay. Great, thank you. There's a question about the salary range for a PA. Is that something, and we may have talked a little bit about it, but I don't know, this is something that just came up now or popped in here.
82,000 to 112,
118.
118.
And you get there in 6 years.
And our contract was up for negotiation 2 years ago, so that might look different.
Yeah.
When it eventually gets negotiated in 5 years from now, I don't know.
And
PAs
like Kat said, if you work shift work or on-call work, you get more money. If you work anytime after 6 p.m. up until I think 8 a.m. or on a weekend, you get a $6.50 an hour shift premium or something like that.
It works out that PAs are in the top 5% of the world economy.
If you just Google, our union is the PCAM union, PCAM. So if you Google PCAM collective agreement,
It comes
you'll be able to see all of that information at the bottom of that document for all of the RHAs in Manitoba.
Just a couple new messages here that just popped in. Job opportunities. Do you have any ideas about the job opportunities and salary ranges for Alberta when compared to Manitoba? Don't worry if you can't answer because you're all in Manitoba, smiley face. So it was just a question.
As of April 1, PAs in Alberta will be regulated profession. And if the price of oil goes up, if their economy stops going down, if they change the government, I strongly suspect there will be a lot more PAs employed in Alberta. That's all I can really say. It's political.
Yeah. If you were to choose to work in a surgery field, what are the different responsibilities of OR nurse versus PA?
The OR nurse stays in the operating room. The PA goes everywhere. The PA works for the attending, provides patient care from the moment they arrive, even when they're going through the clinic to the moment that they're discharged. The PA will manage the care on the wards, as well as first assist in the operating rooms and do consults and assessments for anybody else. So it's a broad range of duties and services.
One student wonders if any of you, like Catherine or Callie specifically, did you submit applications multiple times, or was it did you get in your first try?
I got in my first try, but you have to keep in mind, I was also one of the first classes. So I don't believe there was the application numbers that we currently have back then. It was still competitive, but yeah, I know that it's not uncommon now to apply twice or more times just because of pure numbers.
Right.
Yeah, I also got in on my first try. I don't know, like people always wonder, like, what is MPAS looking for? And so we have people from all different areas. We had people who are 22, just little babies. So like I have a bachelor's degree, a master's degree. I have 3 kids. I worked for 4 years for this med school as a program coordinator. I didn't have clinical experience, but I had life experience, I guess. And so it's just, don't compare yourself to other people. Like Ian said, write a statement of intent that shows who you are. Just because you're 22 and fresh out of your bachelor's degree doesn't mean that you're not a good candidate for the program. And like, yeah, I was 30 when I started PA school. So it's just many different walks of life that are all in the program, and it might take you more than one try to get in.
Yeah. I think Callie and I are the exact opposite. Like, this is a good example because I was 22 or 22 when I got into the program. I had nursing experience. I had worked as a nurse for 6 months, but I had also worked as a healthcare aide and then lifeguarding and all that fun stuff. I didn't have a family. I just had my Bachelor of Science in Nursing. So like, that's the spectrum though, you know, it's a huge spectrum, but makes us unique.
Well,
and
when I applied to PA programs, the first year I applied, I submitted to 5 different programs and was rejected by all of them. A year later, I had taken some of the recommendations to heart, and I applied to 3 programs and was accepted at 2 of them. You know,
Yeah.
And I was 34 at the time.
It's great. Thanks for sharing that, you guys. And we've got about like 1 minute left here, and there's lots and lots of questions here that we could probably spend the entire afternoon together here. But there's a lot of like curriculum specific questions about different courses, course requirements and things like that, like for anatomy and physiology courses. One student had a question here about, do you accept international students into the program?
They have to be Canadian citizen or a permanent resident in Canada. The required courses are human anatomy, human physiology of any grade number whatsoever, and biochemistry. As long as it's got the word biochemistry in the course description, we're interested.
Okay.
So we'll take it.
Okay, sounds great. And for any other, and here we go. And Callie, thank you, Callie. Callie posted here in chat, and if anyone has additional questions, feel free to reach out. So thank you for that. So I'm sure that you're going to get some questions for sure. And I mean, if you have any specific, you know, academic related questions, you can always reach out to, you know, some of the advisors at the university as well, and they can give you a hand with that. And there's a lot of resources online on our website, but sometimes it's difficult to find where those resources are located, and unless you're working in the website all the time. So, you know, I know that sometimes that can be challenging, but we'll certainly get you the information that you require. And there's lots of different avenues to get that by way of, you know, what Callie was just mentioning, and that is here. Oh, there's like, yeah, there's quite a few students still emailing questions. I wanted to mention before we wrap up here, because we've got about 3 minutes left. This session has been recorded, so we're going to post it on the Discover Your Future in Healthcare website, which I actually posted the link on the chat. We're going to post it the week of February 22nd. So you should be able to access all of this online. And if beyond that, you're interested in, you know, meeting with someone at Career Services to talk a little bit more about, you know, getting some more career information, or, you know, talking to a career consultant about, you know, some of what you're considering in terms of your future education path, you can certainly contact Career Services, and we can help you out with that. And I just wanted to, I'm just going to share my screen here for a second, Ian, for a minute.
Feel free to share my email address as well. I'm afraid to click into the chat because I'm on my cell phone and I'm afraid I'm going to lose everybody.
Okay,
so.
yeah, no worries. Hang on a second here. I'm just going to share my screen here. Actually, you know, I don't really need to share my screen here because I don't want to keep you guys beyond one. Basically, what I wanted to just quickly give you an overview of career services and some of what we offer for students. For those of you that haven't, visited us online, we help students with resume building, cover letter, CV help. Like we provide you with that help. We have employment related help available. So if you're looking for jobs or if you're wanting to attend one of our workshops on interviewing skills or, creating a LinkedIn profile, so on and so forth, we've got lots of different services and workshops and employer information sessions that are available for students for free. So please check out those workshops and register for a few if you're interested. As I mentioned earlier, we've got career counseling services available. So if you're sort of sitting on the fence about some different career options, that's what we're here to help you with. So you can certainly book an appointment with a consultant anytime by visiting our website, our homepage, and emailing career services. And, we're here online virtually and hoping that, if there's anything we can be helpful with, that you'll contact us. And if there are further questions, certainly reach out to us at Career Services, or as Callie mentioned, and Ian and Catherine, there are avenues to reach out to these folks too. So thank you so very much, Callie and Catherine and Ian. It was super interesting session for me as well. And I feel like I learned quite a bit today. I feel like we could spend another couple of hours together here online though, because there's so much to know and learn. So thank you so much for your time today. Really appreciate it.
Thanks.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. I'm glad we could be here.
Yeah.
So I wish you all, I know you're super busy. I wish you a really great weekend and rest of the afternoon. And thanks again. And hopefully our paths will cross sooner than later.
Okay.
Take care.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay. Take good care. Bye, everyone.
You too. Bye.